Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're embarking on an epic journey back in time, delving into the life of one of the most influential figures in human history, Abraham. You might know him as the father of nations, a patriarch revered by billions across Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, but behind the well-known stories lies a world of mystery, ancient culture, and profound human drama. What was life really like in the sprawling city of yore when he was born? What drove him to leave everything he knew behind for a land he'd never seen? And what truly happened on that mysterious mountain, Moriah? Stick around as we uncover the untold truth about Abraham, from the bustling streets of ancient Mesopotamia to the windswept peaks of the Promised Land. Let's start at the beginning, in a place that sounds almost mythical, Ur of the Chaldees. We're talking about 4,000 years ago in what is now modern-day Iraq. This wasn't some dusty outpost. Ur was a metropolis, one of the world's first great cities. Imagine towering ziggurats piercing the sky, dedicated to the moon god Nanna. The streets would have been a hive of activity, merchants haggling over goods from as far as India, scribes etching cuneiform onto clay tablets, and priests performing elaborate rituals. This was Abraham's world, a sophisticated, polytheistic society. He wasn't a simple nomad from the outset. He was born into the heart of a powerful civilization. His father, Terah, was even said to be an idol maker, so the idea of a single, unseen God would have been radical, almost unthinkable. It's in this context that Abraham's story begins not just as a journey across land, but as a revolutionary leap of faith against the entire culture he was raised in. So why leave? The Bible says God called him, promising to make of him a great nation. Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Imagine the weight of that command. Leave your home, your security, your family's business, everything familiar, for a destination unknown. This wasn't a casual road trip. It was a complete severance from his past. Archaeologists give us a glimpse into the risks. The journey to Canaan was over 1,000 miles, crossing harsh deserts and territories controlled by various tribes. He traveled with his wife, Sarah, his nephew, Lot, and their entire household. This was a massive undertaking, a caravan moving slowly, vulnerable to bandits and the elements. This decision shows incredible courage, or what some might have called madness. It was a definitive break from the moon god of yore and an all-in bet on a promise from a god no one else around him seemed to know. After a stop in Haran, where his father passed away, Abraham finally arrived in Canaan. But this wasn't an empty paradise waiting for him. The land was already inhabited by various Canaanite tribes, people with their own cities, kings, and gods like Baal and Asherah. Abraham was essentially an immigrant, a stranger in a strange land. He couldn't just settle down and build a house. He lived as a semi-nomad, moving with his herds from place to place, setting up tents near Shechem, Bethel, and Hebron. This period was fraught with challenges. There was a severe famine that forced him and Sarah to go down to Egypt. This is where we see a more complex, morally ambiguous side of Abraham. Fearing the Egyptians would kill him to take his beautiful wife, Sarah, he tells her to say she's his sister. It's a cunning survival tactic, but it puts Sarah in a perilous position, and it's a moment of weakness that complicates the portrait of a perfect hero. It shows us his humanity, his fear, and his willingness to bend the rules to survive. Back in Canaan, prosperity brought new problems. Abraham's and his nephew Lot's herds became so large that the land could unsupport them both. Their herdsmen started fighting over grazing rights and water sources. To keep the peace, Abraham does something remarkable. He gives Lot the first choice of the land. He says, "Let's not have any quarreling between you and me. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." This is incredible leadership and generosity. Lot chooses the lush, well-watered plain of the Jordan, near the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, a choice that would have disastrous consequences later. Abraham, on the other hand, is left with the hill country. It might have seemed like the lesser deal, but it was in this land that God reaffirms his promise, telling Abraham that his offspring would be as numerous as the dust of the earth. Now, let's talk about the promise that seemed impossible to fulfill. Years and years went by, and Abraham and Sarah remained childless. In their culture, this was a source of great shame and sorrow. Sarah was well past childbearing age. Doubt must have crept in. Was the promise real? Taking matters into her own hands, Sarah gives Abraham her Egyptian maidservant Hagar to bear a child for him, a common practice at the time. Hagar conceives and gives birth to Ishmael. For a while, it seems the problem is solved, but this creates immense family drama. Tension erupts between Sarah and Hagar, leading to Hagar and Ishmael being sent away into the desert. It's a heartbreaking story of jealousy and pain, a reminder that these biblical figures were real people with complex, messy emotions. But God intervenes, saving Hagar and Ishmael and promising that Ishmael too will become a great nation. Then, when Abraham is 99 years old and Sarah is 90, the most miraculous event occurs. 3 mysterious visitors appear at their tent. Abraham shows them incredible hospitality, a sacred duty in ancient Near Eastern culture. During the meal, one of the visitors declares that in a year's time, Sarah will have a son. The text tells us Sarah, who was listening from the tent, laughed to herself. Who could blame her? It sounded absurd. But the visitor, revealed to be the Lord, asks, "Is anything too hard for the Lord?" And just as promised, a year later, Isaac is born. His name even means "he laughs," a permanent reminder of his parents' initial disbelief and ultimate joy. The birth of Isaac is the pivotal moment. The promise is finally taking shape. It seems like the story should have its happy ending here. But the greatest test was yet to come. This brings us to the most debated, disturbing, and profound chapter in Abraham's life, the binding of Isaac, known in Judaism as the Akedah. God commands Abraham, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering." This is a terrifying command that has troubled scholars and believers for millennia. Why would a loving God ask for such a thing, especially after the long-awaited birth of the promised child? For 3 days, Abraham travels with Isaac to the designated mountain. Can you imagine the silence, the inner turmoil, the crushing weight of that journey? When Isaac asks his father, "The fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham's reply is heartbreakingly cryptic. God himself will provide the lamb. At the top of Mount Moriah, Abraham builds an altar, binds his son, and lays him upon the wood. He raises the knife. This is the absolute climax of his faith and his anguish. At the very last second, an angel of the Lord calls out, stopping him. A ram is discovered caught in a nearby thicket, and it is sacrificed instead. This event is not about God desiring human sacrifice, which was a practice of some surrounding cultures that the Bible condemns. It's interpreted as the ultimate test of Abraham's trust and obedience. It solidifies his status as the father of faith because he was willing to surrender even the thing he loved most, the very fulfillment of God's promise. Back to God. Mount Moriah itself is traditionally identified as the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the future site of Solomon's temple, adding layers of significance to this location as a place of sacrifice and divine presence. So, looking back, Abraham's story is far more than a simple tale of a righteous man. It's a gritty human saga filled with doubt, fear, questionable choices, and family conflict. He was a city dweller who became a nomad, a husband who faltered, a leader who showed great generosity, and a father whose faith was tested to the absolute limit. He journeyed from the polytheistic world of Mesopotamia into a new reality, pioneering the idea of monotheism that would reshape the world. His life wasn't a smooth, upward climb to glory. It was a winding, treacherous path defined by a relentless, often baffling, trust in a divine promise. The story of Abraham isn't just about ancient history. It's a timeless exploration of faith, family, and the incredible, often terrifying, things we are willing to do for what we believe in. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the life of Abraham. What part of his story resonates with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world. See you next time.